This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world, talking with fellow human design reflectors as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Kodie. Kodie is a 6/3 reflector who hosts her own podcast, Surprised and Delighted, a lifestyle human design centered podcast. Kodie also hosts The Mirror, which are mini episodes of truths prepared by fellow reflectors. Let's get into it. Welcome, Kodie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been, oh my gosh, a work in progress, right?
It has been for us.
And I don't know that I asked you this before. You were kind of alluding to this, but is this often the case, like hosting space with reflectors? A lot of this kind of flow of like back and forth. Are we going to make it happen? Do we have the energy?
That's right. And sometimes I think the more we get into it and the more we kind of are experimenting, it depends how many years people have been experimenting. It's just like, I just don't have the energy today. And it's like, I totally get it. This is the beautiful thing about reflectors. It's just like we just straight away, as soon as somebody goes down or they feel sick or something, it's just like, totally understand. It's like, you go, oh crap. It's like, I totally understand. I get it.
Yeah, no, I find that it's like all of my little reflector friends that I've made, there is a sense of ease there where it's like, yep, like there's no harsh feelings. There's no worries about this at all because we're going to meet back and it's going to mesh at one point or another. So I'm glad that you were able to make it work with my nighttime troubles tonight. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I love that you said that too, because it's like that flow. And that's a true testament to us, isn't it? Where we stop forcing things and just allow it to be. It always just works out. It always just works out. So that's a little, honor your design. That's now, let's talk about you. So 6/3, when did you find human design? Take us back.
Okay, so I was thinking about this in the car the other day. I found human design through another podcast that I was listening to at the time. I think, what is her name now? I think she went by the Balanced Blonde at the time. Jordan, I forget her last name now. And she had Jenna Zoe on her podcast. And I thought, what the heck? I'll go type in my information. And Jordan, if you've listened to her podcast as well, she is also a reflector, and she's talking about, this is the rarest type. And I thought, I'm an alien. Like I'm a reflector. And I knew before I hit the button, but then it was kind of like, probably you've experienced this too, is like the invalidation of like that alien experience that we've all had. And then going, no, like you're just kind of making it up. That has, everybody's experiencing life in this way. And then to hit the button and go, oh, okay, there it is. It was kind of wild. And actually I had before Jenna Zoe got all kind of like big, that was like one of her first premiere podcast episodes, and I got a reading with her back in 2018, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So that's when I found it, and I did a few classes through the IHDS for like along the analyst, whatever they call it, those classes. Yeah. And then I had kids and I dropped it for a few years, but I am now kind of coming back around to the experiment. I mean, it's always been kind of in the back of my mind, knowing this information. And so in times like that I've been experiencing trials or what have you, I kind of return to that. Okay, lunar cycle. Are we waiting? Are we like initiating too much? What's kind of going on? But now I would say probably for the past year, I've really been kind of deep in my experiment, and what I would say is more of like a witnessing of myself and seeing as a reflector. It's hard because we don't have definition. It's like, what do you mean? Everybody is defined by their energy that they present into the world. And so what do you mean that I don't have that? Where does that leave me in kind of the scheme of this life? And what I have found, and what a friend and fellow kind of human design reader said was, we're kind of that, like, there's the fabric of humanity and we're the space in between. We are like the entirety of it all. You know, we hold that together, and we showcase that. We're the simulation of that experience. So anyway, that has been, so yeah, back in 2018, I've kind of gone on a tangent now here, but it's been a fun little journey so far.
Yeah. And it does sound like an interesting journey that you really dove into it and started doing those courses and studying, and then kids, boom. How did that disrupt your life? Or not?
Or not. I love that you had that. Mostly disruptive. No, I'm teasing. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. But I think that I'm a 6/3 reflector. So as a 6, and I think everybody probably experiences the Saturn return very, like, that is quite the experience to go through. And so I started having kids at 27, right? Like right as that energy kind of starts coming into your world. And so there's all these pieces of me that's being stripped away. This is not you. This is not you. This is conditioning. This is conditioning. And what that showed up as was parenting and inner child work. You know, I'm looking at these reactions that I'm having to these tiny beings that I've brought into the world that are completely innocent, that didn't ask to be here. I'm looking at them totally triggered and like, why? You're not doing anything to me. You're 6 months old, you know? And so it was so interesting because I wasn't that deep into human design study, but in a sense, I was really deep in just my experience of deconditioning without really relating it to human design and having to have all this kind of like languaging around it and really just stripping away the layers. And it's been really interesting to kind of view motherhood through that lens of also inner child work, seeing that the ways that I was parenting them was actually the ways that I wanted to be parented, and then looking to their design to say, oh, they're complete. I have a sacral generator 3-year-old and a emotional Manny-Gen, and they're completely different beings than I am in every sense. And so they don't need the same thing from me as I needed from my parent. And so that was kind of the biggest, most profound thing that I experienced, was like, you're parenting yourself, and that's not how they need it. And it's a work in progress. And as parents, we know we're failing every day, but we're not failing every day. We're trying our best every day. And no matter how hard we try, life is homogenized around us, and they're still going to be conditioned. So anyway.
No, that's actually a really good point, because I'm glad that your children gave you, at least until you're coming to your Saturn return. I sort of was, when you were talking there, I was thinking if you would have been 22 as a 6/3 and having children, you know, it might have been a completely different, you just would have maybe been coming out of the fetal position now, but, or it would have been just a wild ride, especially with Manny-Gen energy. But I love that you say that, you know, that we can go one or two ways becoming parents. We either mimic our parents, or we completely do a 180 and then go, how do I want to be parented? And as reflectors, most of the time we probably wanted to be given a lot of space, or we needed to be told to slow down. And I love what you were saying there about your children. That's not what they need. I'm grateful because, well, my first 2 children were generators. They're both pure generators. And looking back, there was a lot of me going, oh, I just need space, I need time, and they were always kind of in my space. But my 3/5 generator, she was kind of off doing her own thing, so I had a bit of grace there. But my third daughter is a projector, and I find it was easy with her because now that I, understand human design, but at the time, because she's nearly 7, that it was easy for me and her to be able to have space and quiet time. And it was just, it flows, and it still does. But my Mani-Gen son, it was just like, and that was an awareness that I had too when he was born. It's like, I can't parent him like her. He needs a lot more in my field. He needs a lot more love and affection, because again, he's an emotional manifesting generator.
Yeah.
He's 4/6, so there's this massive social aspect to him, and it's just like, whoa. And I am grateful that I have my partner who's a generator, and this is the conversations we have of going, look, I can't deal with that social situation today. Can you and all your socialness take him and all his socialness and go?
Yeah.
That's cohesion. That's families working together. So I really love that you said that, because that's important. Sometimes we can get caught into our own, well, what do I want? I'll parent that way. So
yeah, and differentiating the need of our own personal inner child. I'm parenting myself and then 2 others every day. And obviously there's the other that takes precedence, especially as such tiny, that a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, it's like, of course they take precedence. And so making space to parent myself and really understand, am I amplifying? Is this is this kind of chaotic, bouncy energy that I'm experiencing within myself? Is this my own, or am I amplifying? And do I need to ask my partner for me to, to step in so that I can get space, or, all these different kind of things. That's why I love human design so much, is because it's given us this blueprint of like, here's this thing, try it and see if it works. Right. Like, I love that there's people now out there that are like kind of saying like, a lot of the languaging feels like, this is it, this is your truth. And I love now that there's kind of this awareness that like, just try it on, see how it feels. And it's often more than not that I'm like, oh, I waited 28 days and this decision feels really good, versus just like, as reflectors, I think we get sucked into just going, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So,
and that does take a lot of, I don't know, it takes a lot to hold yourself back and go, I need to actually, excuse me, I need to slow down. I need to actually think about this or feel into this.
Yeah.
So is your partner, what's his design in your?
He's a Splenic Projector.
Yeah, right.
So it has been quite the parenthood for us, has been quite a journey, because we had such an easy dating, pre-marriage, pre-kids life. We've been together 10 years. And we just really had kind of this seamless flow together, not having this kind of sacral too bouncy of energy. He is definitely a busybody. He's still often, I mean, it's easy for us to see, right? Like we can see like, oh, you're like not self-projectoring right now or whatever. But I mean, I kind of poke him about it a lot, but he's like, leave me be. I'm a busybody. I'll get it someday. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. We're all on our journey. But it's been interesting to watch that shift. We've also experienced quite the shift in our marriage, because it's like, wait, we both need space, but like, how do we do that? And so we've actually even just giving ourselves permission to experience marriage, like, sleeping in separate beds. That's like one of these topics that's like, whoa, do you not like love me anymore? People can get kind of this weird thing about it. And it's like, no, we love each other enough that we do want to give each other this, it's the space thing. And so it's been fun to experiment with in marriage as well. And I don't know if he would say fun, but I think it's difficult for him. I tell him often, like, it must be difficult to face the mirror daily. I'm also a Virgo sun and an Aquarius moon. So I'm just like, poor guy. Like
there's a lot of emotions happening in there. And what profile is he?
He is a 6'2".
So you've got a lot of that. You've got a lot of that third line happening.
Yes, we do. And that sixth line too, we really do strive for like that role model, that kind of I almost like perfectionistic tendencies that kind of come along with it. And I find often that is our frustration when we're not allowing ourselves to just kind of flow within life. And when we're expecting too much out of ourselves, then we project onto each other and we're like expecting the same amount as, so it's an interesting dynamic, and it's really fun to view for me through the lens of human design.
Yeah, it's really good that he supports you on that. I think we're very blessed. Let's say it. We're blessed that, our partners, even though they mightn't be as into it as we are, they honor what we're talking about. So my partner, he's very much, he honors it, but he's not as nerded out about it as I am. And the things that I teach him, and we learn together is very eye-opening, and he will jump on that and he will really take it on, like yes, no questions with generator types. So I'm just thinking there, like you've been together for 10 years, you've both got that sixth line acting as a third line. Is he roughly your age too? So did you kind of go through your Saturn return together where you kind of slowed down a little bit?
It's actually something I was contemplating like a few days ago. He is 3.5, 4 years ahead of me. And so when we had our first child, he was hitting 30. And in fact, I threw him a birthday party and a gender reveal, which I later found out was not the funnest thing for a 30-year-old who's going into this, like this is a new milestone. And I'm like, cool, let's find out our new, like we don't drink anymore. I'm having a baby. Let's find out the gender. Anyway, it's kind of a funny story now, but he was in that transition and I went, whoa, why are you slowing down? Like, why are we changing pace? Whereas before he was more likely to kind of, because he has that 2 line, that hermit line that really wants to like slow down and stay close. He's also a caves environment. And so I've been one that's like, let's go adventure. Let's take the kids to do this and to do that. And still very much in my 3 experience. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was I was kind of like, wait, what's going on? We used to bounce all around and do things together and really experience life. And I want to be able to do that, even though we have kids, right? That's not a limitation to me. But it wasn't even
spoken like a true 6-3.
yeah, right.
Sorry, I just love that. I'm just like, that's not an option for me. Spoken right there. You're never going to get away from it. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I know, no, it's so true. But I look back on it now, and he was entering that 6 phase. He was heading to the roof, and he's just like, I'm in my 6 too. I'm on the roof and I'm hermiting. I don't need to do all of that kind of mess anymore. And it's just so funny to look back on now.
Yeah. Because as you're saying, at the time you didn't know, but you kind of do know, and you look back. So how was your life like when you find human design? I find that often we'll really reflect on our journey through life. And 6-3s are not, I know they're common, but they're not that common. We don't come across them. I know in a lot of the forums and stuff like that, it's always like, is anybody, they little raise their hand, is anybody else a 6-3? Crickets. Yep. Crickets. And then every now and then someone will go, I am. And it's just like, hey, you can be my best friend now, please. But talk to us about how that experience was for you, or is for you looking back.
On the 6-3 experience, or
that double 3.
It makes so much sense about my life and my childhood and just literally everything that I've experienced in life. And I also, there's a sense that like it's good that I found human design in the timing that I did, because I find that a lot of the languaging is often like, I don't like a lot of the 3-line languaging, because it feels very limiting, or very much like, oh, very dinky all over the place, which it kind of is, but but for me, it's been more of a permission to slip, to just kind of evolve and change as I need. But yeah, the 6-3 experience, I look back and I've just always been a trial and error type person, which doesn't fit it. There are some, as I'm kind of going through, different charts and reading and seeing patterns and things of that nature, there are some channels and profile lines and things that just fit our modern day society a little bit easier. I find the 6-3 to be outside of that experience. And then, I found out I'm a reflector, and then I found out I'm a 6-3. I go look it up and it's like, oh, that's 2% of the population. I'm like, are you shitting me? Is there not any way that I can even just, because I thought, oh, these profile lines, this is how I can connect with a generator, or connect with, which I can still do that. But yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
I've heard that from, I remember when we had Rhonda on very early on in this podcast, and she's a 6-3 too. Mm-hmm. Just what you were saying there, she echoed the same thing. It was just like, are you kidding? And now this, and then this. And it was just like, what else is going to come up? And I'd be curious to hear, what is your incarnation cross? Is this the triple whammy here?
Well, to me, I don't know. So, okay, I'll tell you. It's a left angle cross of Dominion 2, which to me is very fitting as well. Like, as a child, I was like, I want to be the project, they would, you four together in these desks, and who's going to present the little poster. And it was always kind of like me. But then as a reflector, I would get up there and like everybody in the room's energy is like bouncing off inside of me. And I was like, So, they say you kind of just find yourself in the middle of the incarnation cross. And I have yet to understand what that's going to really look like. I don't even know what any of it means. So we'll see. It's 64. I think it's the 64, 63, 45, 26.
Yeah.
And that's something I've really been, as a reflector, I think that's something we can really anchor into. Oh, these are the 4 hanging gates that kind of, that make up the majority of my experience, especially if, the sun is 70% of the neutrinos we're receiving. It's like the gate of confusion. Are you shitting me? That's 70% of my waking experience. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's all quite a trip.
It's all really fun when you break it down like that. It is. Mm-hmm. It's so true. And you just, instead of getting really making it overcomplicated, and you just look at that and you just go, well, that explains a lot. And you know what, that is the beauty about this, isn't it? It's like validation of self. It's like you can go down all these rabbit holes and want to learn it and want to study it, but it's that whole aha moment that you feel in your body when you find these things out and just go, oh, thank what you were saying earlier. It's like, thank God I'm not alone. Thank God I'm not crazy. This explains it. Yeah. That is the healing right there, I think. And one of the reasons I always talk to people about it, and I keep going, because it's just like, there's so much healing in not labeling yourself so much, but having that understanding of you and taking the time to feel it. So, and that's, I think, why when we first find this, we want to know as much as we can, but you've got to have the lived experience, because when you don't have that, you're still like burning engines.
Absolutely.
So going back there before, you were saying that, with your marriage, you honor that sleeping in separate beds and taking that time for each other. And, you've hit that conditioning aspect where people think you're strange. It's just like, we do our relationship the way we do our relationship. Everybody else mind your own business. But what else do you do anything else to keep your energy or follow your design, I suppose? Is there anything that you do religiously?
I think you kind of spoke to it before. I mean, really just allowing myself to, allowing like the pause, coming up against something, bumping into something and going, wait, what's happening here? And really just witnessing myself and is this me or is this conditioning? Really sleeping, kind of, that has been my biggest permission slip recently I've given myself and it's not all the time, he's a projector, so I don't get so much of that sacral overload in the bed together. And so we often find it very comfortable to sleep next to one another. But I can feel when it builds. I feel when there's like this need to have, a solid 10 hours of just my own aura overnight. And I allow that. And honestly, I would say that has been the biggest thing. The other thing is, growing up, I come from a family, a single mom of 4 children, and they're all energy beings, of course. And so, oh, sorry, I'm like forgetting my train of thought here.
Open head center.
Yeah, like I've got like all these like crisscrossing things in my brain. But what was it I was just about to say?
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
And this is how it works for us. It's just like this. And everyone thinks that sometimes we have these really great conversations and gee whiz, you're really articulate today. And it's just like, no, that's just in that moment I was actually on fire. And then it's just like, what happened?
And then it floats. Like I literally felt it go. I was like, oh, this is good. And it's gone. And it's gone. It's in the clouds all of a sudden. No, but I think what I was, no, it's gone. It sure is. It sure is gone.
That's okay.
The permission slips have been really just around, allowing myself the time and the space and not needing to be confined to the other. I find myself like often needing to feel an experience and like addicted to the chaos, addicted to needing to bring that into my life, to instead of being able to focus on what it is that I need in the moment, it's like, oh, well, I have this fire to put out anyway. So I'm going to go focus on this thing that distracts me from what it is that I'm actually feeling. And it's such a silly thing to say, but like I've had the realization recently that like feelings are meant to be felt. I was like, huh? What does that mean? Like crying? And it's just, there's a lot of there's a lot of, I guess there's so many things here that I could go on and talk about of permission slips that I've been trying to give myself, but really the sleeping separately is really the biggest one.
I love that you brought up chaos. Chaos is something that I've been working a lot on over the last year. And you can really understand it when you've had like that kind of trauma in your life where you've kind of felt your life of being invisible, which reflectors really have, because but it's also we create the drama inside ourselves or in a situation to get attention.
Yes.
And it's a double whammy when you've got that in your chart too. So it's just like, that attention seeking, and it's not always like, look at me. It could just be something that you stir up. It could be addiction abuse. It could be just, you know what I'm talking about here, because it's something that I've been dealing with as well. And I think that as reflectors and open-centered beings, full stop, have this a lot. Chaos. We create chaos. And it's like when you can see it, it's hard shit. As you were saying, oh, I realize I've got to feel. It's like, oh, fuck. It's like, damn it, do I really? And you're like, yeah, you do. You do. And that's hard. That's really hard, because probably our whole lives, we've been trying to be everybody else, chameleons, not understanding who we are, wishy-washy, not given grace and space. So conditioning is a blow, man.
And like on top of it, this idea that our feelings are our own, like and in tandem with the chaos. So here's these tiny little pieces of, these little fires that I'm going to go put out and create chaos out external from me that distracts me from actually feeling what it is in my own experience. And I think that that's so easy as a reflector to get sucked up into, because it's, there's not a lot of really good information out there about reflectors. You come across an Instagram carousel and, hi, cute little reflector, and this is what you might be experiencing. And it's like, no, I mean, yes, because we are, we are everything and we are no thing. But it's so much more nuanced than just that. I think that if you were to look at human design and you see generators, projectors, manifest, all of the types together, the reflector is all of them. Yes. We are constantly bridging the gates daily and energizing in different ways and experiencing life through the transits. So yeah, like experiencing your reality as your own and not what people have said that it is. It's so simple and so duh. And I feel like an emotional authority. Like my little Manny Jen, someday she's gonna be like, well, yeah, feelings are meant to be felt by yourself because it's my whole entire authority. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I didn't know, but I learned through you. So thanks for coming to me, So it's such a crazy experience.
The riding of the wave, what a beautiful gift that is to give us as parents when we've got emotional manifesting generators. I found that is just a true, like at first couple of years, I was just like, what the hell have I created? And then, and now it's like I can ride that wave too. And it forces me to slow down. And I guess it helps them to slow down too. So that's like another little gift that I've really been aware of over the last year, of allowing him to slow down a little bit and go, you can't keep up with all them. I'll show you. Come to me, my darling boy, and I will show you how to slow down.
Did you find that, like, even as a newborn, you were experiencing these tiny waves? Because she popped out and I was like, whoa, we're on a wave, like all of a sudden. Whereas like my sacral generator, it was like, there's this steady hum of energy. It's like zzz, and it just doesn't waver. And then when it's done for the day, it goes to sleep. The emotional Manny Jen, it's just like, whoa, here we go. We're on the roller coaster every day when she wakes up. And it was such a shock to my system first. And I'm like, no, surely, like, am I imagining things? Like, am I over like dramatizing this human design information I've come in contact with? But surely I am not, because this is textbook. Is that how you experienced it as well?
Because my son's 5.5, so I didn't know human design for the first year of his life. Hardest. I've got 4 children, so it was literally the hardest. And I now know, but at the time I'm like, what's going on? Literally, I swore I had severe postnatal depression. It's like nothing I did seemed to be okay. So I'd over smother. And of course I look back and I could see all the telltale situations. He really just needed to be left alone a little bit more than what I was, but he never slept. He never slept, things like that. It was the hardest year. I have a lot of support systems now that I offer parents, because I understand that how the struggle is so real. But he was that was a tough one. I still look back and I go, oh, twitch. It's like, oh, twitch. It's like a little moment. I'm just like, ooh. And 2 under 2, I had them 15 months apart. So I was just like, wow, that year was a ride, man.
Oh my goodness. 21 months. And like, when people tell me anything less than 21 months, I'm like, God bless you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Just like fetal position. Fetal position. But it's great now, because it's good. But yeah, as we were going back earlier when we were talking about that, it's just like, as parents, when we know this about our children, it's like we can honor them, their strategy, but also teach them to honor us, because that's really important. Excuse me. It's really important. And so when they go into the schoolyards and stuff like that, they're learning. Well, I feel that even though I don't plug it to them, teaching them the differences between how people need to respond or how they need to respond has been really, really good. And my friends' kids, so when they all get together and they're all doing little bits and pieces, it's like, well, Arwen is the way she is because she's a splenic projector, and it's okay for her to have this device time and be in the corner reading a book or something, because that's what she needs.
Yeah.
And then you can be in your circles, and then you've got the manifester, just, leave them alone. Just allow them to, and using a little bit of that language, I guess, not indoctrinating them or putting them in a cult, but allowing them to experience that.
Yep.
Gets them what they need. It gets them respect, I think, and gets them what they need.
I have a really good girlfriend who, her and her husband are both generators, sacral generators, and they have a projector and a manifestor child. And then you have me and my husband, so it's this flip-flop scenario. And when we get together, often you find a flip-flop scenario in children. So like her children really gravitate to me, and we're off reading books and we're kind of relaxing and we're chilling. She's off jumping and bouncing and, ooh, look at this new thing, and ooh, and it's so interesting to see. And, I've brought this to her, I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this thing, and this is what I do. And I don't want to be pushy, but, if you'd like me to, I'll read, I'll pull up their charts for you. And she has found it so useful because she can see, she's found it useful because it's like, she has so much energy. She takes her kids to kind of all these places. And then, they have these big meltdowns and they're really tired, versus me and my husband, we try to do places we're really tired and we're like, oh, let's go home. And the kids are still going. And we're like, no, but we need a fence. It's been really cool to like see that opposition. And there's no obvious, and for anybody hearing this, there's no one right. There's so many different mixtures of how families can, come up with types and things of that nature. So there's no one way, but you see it just on a very surface level with children because they're so unconditioned,
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be able to observe.
It is really cool to observe that. I've got friends the same. They're generator types, and there's no reflectors, but definitely projectors, and they always kind of, it's like they can kind of go, oh gosh, I can have a break. They come in and it's just like, and then exactly what you're saying, and then my kid, or one of them, would be just going, yeah, this is great. Can we go back to this person's house? Can we go there again? And I'm like, you would move in there, wouldn't you? You would move in there because we're a bit boring.
Yeah, exactly.
That is in the observation. And I love that you have been doing this for so long, of just, as you said, pausing and observing and stepping back and trying to understand, is that me? Is that me? Chaos and drama. You're doing the work. You're doing the work.
Thank you. That felt good. Thank you. I'm doing the work. Sometimes I don't feel like, you get caught up in your experience. And especially with my oldest just turned 3, and it's like a light has something switched in her, and she chooses violence daily now.
On you or just on other people?
Just kind of I guess a saying of just, she wakes up and she's really in the testing boundaries phase right now. And so I've been brought to tears often. And I think, am I doing work, or am I really conditioning in a not so, I find myself raising my voice or doing the things that our parents did. And I'm like, oh gosh, but we have to allow ourselves to also be human beings.
Exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah. And I when I say doing the work, sometimes I cringe at my own self for saying work, because it does feel like work sometimes, but
Yep.
I guess it's again a play on words. It's like, can we change that word? It's the same with trial and error, having that 6-3. It's just like you hear that all the time. I can imagine in your profile, it's always like trial and error, trial and error. Why don't we change that to trial and experimentation? So it has a, a more of a positive flow to it.
Yep.
Let's just burn all the books with all the with all the foul. You just think, ooh.
Yeah. Nice. Or the 3. I mean, the 3 is really here to mutate it and change it, so we'll do that too. We'll change it here. And it starts on fun podcasts.
Yeah. I've had a lot of third lines orbiting around me lately. And I think it's something I've sort of said to without you, because they always, they feel real down on themselves when they get a reading from somebody or something happens and they find out about this third line. They go, yeah, it makes sense. But then they kind of think, trial and error. And so I kind of shifted it and I said, well, without you, we'd all be stuffed, because thank you for leading the way. So we can know now that climbing that tree is bad. So I said, thank you for being the pioneer and leading the way through experimentation.
Yes. I love that. It's perfect.
Do you have anything that you would like to share with our reflector community? What's Kodie's top tips?
I would say one of the biggest things that, again, it's always the simple things. It's always the little things that are the biggest. And in this kind of Saturn return process, the understanding, and really where the Homebody Club was cultivated, was this understanding that we're already home. Like there's this kind of idea out there that we need to be fixed and we need to constantly work and we need to buy that next masterclass and we need to continue, and like it's always the next thing. And so I guess what I would say is, like, knowing that you are already home in yourself and that you are like divinely placed in this exact moment for a reason, and that there's no other way, like that this is it, and starting there. And then that kind of can shift, this idea that it's so good to be in kind of the self-development world and wanting to change and wanting to better ourselves and be better parents to our children, because they deserve that. But if you're constantly bettering yourself from a place of self-degradation, what are you working on until you really accept yourself as whole in the moment? So I kind of like see myself as this little puzzle that's left pieces all along the road and in different places, and I'm kind of just calling her back now. And that is the Homebody. That's the Homebody Club, and bringing it all home and calling those pieces of myself back that I've left behind.
I love that. That is so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you about the Homebody Club, and I never thought it was that at all. Like, I thought the Homebody Club was, when you're at home, you're stuck at home with your small children and your family life. I thought that's a Homebody Club. And you've just explained it. And I'm like, oh, yes, because we do that. We start to call those parts of ourselves that we've had to eject from or eject out of our body and out of our soul, cast them out, or for fear of shame or whatever it is. And so that's beautiful, Kodie, the Homebody Club, calling yourself back home. Yeah. Because you're already home.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Yeah, of course. I love it.
Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, I think that feels pretty.
That's pretty good.
My name is Kodie and I'm complete. Did you ever do the Clubhouse thing? No, you never got it. It was like an app, and it was like a live podcast style app, and you could open a chat room and people could enter it, and it would have like a topic and you'd be talking about the thing. And so there were like different etiquettes in there, and you'd say like, you'd be having your discussion and then people would pop on stage and talk. And then when they were done, they would say, my name is Kodie and I'm complete. And it was like, it's just kind of like you'll have to go check out Clubhouse now. It's kind of a fun place to be.
I think I remembered it, but because I've got a communist phone, I've got an Android, I don't think you could get it. And then I was just like, oh, look, I can't do any more of those stuffs, but I like that. My name is Annie and I'm complete.
Yeah.
It's like, we are done.
Yeah, exactly.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn about your podcasts?
Yeah, all of the things. Honestly, I would say just go on Instagram to just, ride the ride with me, because it's always changing and evolving, and it's one podcast, or it's two, or it's maybe this new thing, or I'm a 6'3", so hop on the roller coaster and take a seat.
And you know what? That's conditioning too. It's just like that's so conditioned in us that we are not allowed to taste and sample things. That's who we bloody well are. We need to trial all sorts of stuff. And we were speaking about this before we started recording, just about that. And it's like, it's okay to have wishy-washiness. I think we need to make a sort of a bit of a stand to go, you know what, it's absolutely okay to be loosey-goosey, wishy-washy, because that's our freaking superpower to evolve and transmute and open different ports. And I love that. Just ride the ride with you, and up and down and around and around. It's just like, woo.
I would add one more thing to that, and more just kind of to your point, is I think, if we're reflectors and we're meant to be at kind of the centers of the community, if we're mirroring back to society what is needed, I think that if I were to view my own self, and I'm really kind of in this phase of like, well, what is my piece of that? What am I meant to mirror here in this incarnation? And as a 6'3", it is the allowance of just bumping around and riding the roller coaster ride. And if you're a reflector and you're hearing this, no matter your profile line, don't allow this container, that this is beautiful information, but don't allow it to limit your experience. If you would like to manifest, if you would like to initiate, if you would like to project, do it and try it on, and witness yourself in the movement of that, and notice the blocks of your energy. And just, I think that is one of the things I've come to role model in this life is the bumping around and the permission slip to do so. So if you're hearing this and you feel limited by being a reflector in, 28 days, don't let it. Create and be and experience. So
beautifully said. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You can be everything and anything. Absolutely. Exactly right. Thank you, gorgeous soul, for your time. We got here. I'm so excited. We got it. We did it. I even hit record, so I know it's happening. Woohoo! Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. It was so wonderful. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah.